Welcome to License to
Hi.
Spill. I'm Christina Scaglione, your host, with our co-host, Julie Stark.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yes. Hi, good to see you. It's great to see
Hi.
you again.
Welcome, welcome. Today's conversation will be around how therapists are also people, are human,
Have
and not.
you have you like had experiences where people like don't think you're human?
I think I have some clients that feel I'm invincible and know everything.
Well, you do.
I don't.
Okay. Okay.
It'd be funny because
Oh,
of
totally.
our relationship, but I don't know everything. I'd like to think I know everything, but I don't know everything.
Okay.
All right,
So,
now it's on Julie to get.
okay. All right. It's on.
What's the echo that I'm hearing? What do you have, a guitar next to you?
I do. I'm strumming away and I'm doing the Rubik's Cube as we're talking.
Okay, I
Yes.
don't know
Okay. So,
everything. I don't know everything, but I do know a lot.
this is true. Yes, and just you're referring to humanizing us as people,
Yeah.
that we have our own crap too, and have to try to deal with things during the day when it's not really possible for us to spend time emoting or having any time to ourselves during the daytime hours.
Oh my gosh, no. I mean, especially if you're back to back for 8 hours straight, there isn't time for you to really be worried and concerned about what's going on in your own life.
Right. A quick check of the phone and it's like, call me 911, and like can't have somebody walking in.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
I agree. I don't get the luxury of doing that either. And I think my clients, especially the ones that have followed me, throughout my career, I think they value my approach because I'm really honest, and I will say to them when I don't know something well enough, but I also think that they still have this idea that I have it all together and that I'll always know what to do, at least for myself, if I were them, if I were in their shoes. And I don't always know what I would do if I was in their shoes. That's why it feels very collaborative in our work together, especially how we built Root and Rise. It's very collaborative in our sessions too, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. I would agree. I would agree with that. And I think there's this sort of expectation is not the right word, but when we sit down on our first session, we're in some special chair and they're on the sofa. And throughout, a session with certain people, I'll share personal things and I'll say things like, I too was on that couch for a while, not my couch, but other people's couches, therapists' couches. I struggle with things too. And I now that you're saying this, it does help remind me how often I find myself saying things like that.
One of the things that I don't think clients understand that we carry as people, like in this line of work, is, or what they don't really necessarily understand about the job is the emotional whiplash that we get between sessions, and that we have to be able to pivot between our clients within the hours that we're working that day for an entire week, forever, forever. Um,
Forever.
it can go from somebody processing grief to somebody debating whether they should text their ex. You know what I mean? Like totally different vibes, and under a minute. Like we have to be able to do that like this.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like we walk someone out of the waiting room and you walk the next person in. And rarely do we have more than 5-10 minutes at most.
And that
Um,
also has to include us drinking some water, going to the bathroom, maybe checking our phone to see if the life that we live is on fire, or
yes.
or, or something else, or if a client's running late, right? We do have to check our phones just in case. But I don't think people understand like how hard that can be to process grief with someone, or to process trauma with somebody, and then to go into, I feel annoyed that I sat in traffic today. It could be something so benign.
Anything.
Anything.
Yes.
Anything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think I've created a ritual for myself at times where excuse me, I'll just say, okay, breathe, take a breath, and then walk out to get the next client because I have to find some way to just reset,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
No, it definitely does. I mean, I think it's great you have a ritual. I feel like I pivot quickly. I've gotten better at it over the decade that we've been doing this, but I suppose
It's nice to have some kind of grounding technique for yourself that we often teach our clients. It's a way to reset yourself. I think it would be a great idea. Any ideas that come to mind?
yeah, well, 30 seconds to regulate yourself, I guess clear your reactions so that you can feel like, I mean, I suppose I do ground in between sessions because I do have a lot of things in my office that I'm constantly using. I have this scented lotion that I use when I need to center myself, and it's right next to my chair. I use that and I rub that on my hands. I have a couple of oils that I will use. I also, there's a salt spray that I use to spray in between clients. So I suppose I do have a ritual and I just didn't call it that.
Okay, that's fair. So you have tools that help you.
Yeah. I think there's also an assumption that therapy is always emotionally heavy because of what clients bring in. And I think, yeah, sometimes it is, but it also can be, there can be levity in the sessions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've had some clients apologize for the levity of a session. You know, I'm like, or they'll say something like, I'm sorry, we didn't really get to. And then I'll ask them to talk about the points that we did get to. And you're right. It doesn't have to be so emotionally heavy.
There's definitely a lot of gear shifting, which can be demanding, but I think it's fun to laugh in the sessions and not have to process something heavy. It doesn't have to be doom and gloom every time someone comes in.
I rarely have a session where I don't laugh at least once or twice with the client.
Well, that's good. I didn't always have a therapist that would be willing to have a personality. I would say that in my later years, when I started to find better therapists, I had a more personable relationship with them. But in my earlier experiences, I didn't feel that way. I felt it was very robotic. And the meme that we see online with the therapist's face, the deadpan, no expression, that was my experience.
That's unfortunate. I wonder if it had to do with your age and, getting older and becoming more aware of yourself, or were the therapists just not right for you?
Maybe a little bit of both. Or at least I do think of it as I'd like to be the therapist that I wanted and needed when I was that age instead of what I had, which I think is why I don't really follow the book in a lot of ways.
Sort of similar to parenting, right? Except there's no book, but
like, there's a book?
You do for your children as you don't, as you did not have with your parents is the common,
yes. Yeah,
fun thing to say. But I think it makes you a better therapist for what you have seen and gone through.
Absolutely. Well, I do see a lot of jokes online about, I follow some accounts that therapists run, and also they make fun of themselves and they make fun of our industry, which is just so funny to watch. But the therapist face, that neutral expression is all over online. I feel like I see it all the time. But when we've had to use it, it's very intentional when we use that face in sessions. It's not about blankness, right?
There's no crickets, right?
No, there's definitely no crickets. It's about containment. I try to remain neutral in situations that have high crisis.
Sure. That's helpful.
Do you feel that you keep that face on sometimes in your sessions?
I think I'm less aware of keeping a certain face, and my body language maybe is, more intense. I'm sitting forward. I'm fully engaged with them. So I don't necessarily feel aware of my facial expressions. I feel an energy between my client and myself, and it's palpable. And I feel like I can go in waves with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I think that's obviously intuition, and you're using that throughout your sessions, which I also use. I think there are some times that I'll make a mental note of how I want to react to something, especially if it's a person that I know is very sensitive. If I react too quickly, for example, it could create shame, or if I react too strongly, it'll influence their outcome. So I try to navigate in that sense of being aware in my sessions with certain topics.
Yes, when you describe it like that, for sure, certain topics, because I find that our clients are most of the time, majority of the time, really keyed in to us and what we show, and we'll follow that up with questions like, I just saw an eyebrow raised, Julie, what's that about? Or why are you writing that down? What are you writing down? And so many different things like that we have to be aware of.
Yeah, I remember early in my career when a client would call something out that I've done, whether or not I was aware of it, I'd always be like, oh, I didn't realize at the time of getting into this in the earlier parts of my career, I didn't realize that I too would be a mirror to what was happening in the session. I obviously we're trained to focus on them, not so much on ourselves, and it took me a little bit more time and experience to develop that discernment to be aware of myself as well as them.
Yep. That makes sense. When I went to school for art therapy, mirroring was a really big deal, really big topic. So I think it comes naturally for me to sit like my clients are sitting, or, if they cross their arms, a minute or two later, I'm going to do the same thing. And I find that very helpful. And again, it helps the client feel in tune with the therapist. Just that's something I'm aware of.
Well, that's interesting information.
It's just one of many different things that I learned back then.
There are times that I'm listening in session and I know my clients wondering what I'm thinking. And just so people who are listening, what I'm usually thinking is, do I interrupt? Do I let this finish? Do I allow them to avoid this processing for now and circle back? I also ask myself things like, are they asking for reassurance or insight?
Right.
Sometimes I'll ask them too, because I'm not always sure. And then I also sometimes have to ask if they're joking or if they're deflecting. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of things that we have to translate in session on top of being, emotional gear shifts to navigate these types of clients and this type of work.
For sure. I agree with you 100%. And then you look at our partners at home or friends or family or whomever, who at the end of the day just don't have the energy for on some days that are heavier than others.
There's a couple of memes that I've seen where the therapist, they like have a side by side and the therapist is like super engaged with their clients. And then at home, there's a blanket over their head. I was like, yeah, that's me. It's like,
yeah, you're right. I think there is an assumption that we have it all together because we're sitting on a different side of the room, and we so don't. We're human.
Which
I
means
think
that we have a battery, right? Which means that we also have a social battery just like they do. And after holding space for people for 30 plus more hours a week, by the weekend, I'm fried. I know that you are. I've been with you during a full week. And I know that when Friday comes around, you can't wait to just close out the world and just relax.
And shut off my phone and my computer and everything that connects me to the outside world, which of course is not healthy, but
it's not healthy either with balance. It's neither. It's just it's a ritual that is helpful in some cases, and you just have to have boundaries on it, And I think that's the part that can become tricky if you are also struggling with things in your own life, which I think is just valuable information to have in general, because again, we are people, we have our own stuff.
Right. And also when we become hyper aware with something that they're talking about that triggers in us what we do with that information, I think we're all different in that regard.
Oh, totally. I think it's Christina Scheinberg and you and I also, I think we had a group supervision about transference and discussing transference and why it's helpful to discuss that with the client sometimes when it comes up, because it can be a healthy process that we share. And, I think in her example, she was saying, I think I'm too close to the client's case, and now I don't know if I can give her the right advice. I think it was a very healthy and clinically sound place for her to come from, use the supervision for that, but interesting and not talked about enough about what we have to navigate as complex humans with complex humans.
Yes, you're right. I think just starting the conversation is a great thing that we're doing today.
You said something a second ago that made me think about how when clients will tell me something that was really hard for them to share, and then they ask, "Are you judging me?" You get that?
Yeah, I do. Or again, what are you writing down? What are you thinking? And it goes from one thing to the other thing, and that's got to be hard.
Yes.
To also to share something. And then, although after a while of working with certain clients, they know this is a judgment-free zone.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
I applaud you for that. Well timed. And I think that's the work that we do on ourselves, giving us the ability to do that.
I would say when I'm asked that, I'm usually calculating timing. So when they're sitting there asking me what I'm thinking, I'm trying to calculate how I want to time what I'm going to facilitate that in that session. Here's a popular topic. I think in general, I would assume most therapists get this from their loved ones and families, but being the stable one, being the stable one in the family,
Okay.
burnout for us is real, and
Oh,
being
yeah.
the stable one as far as image goes, I think is something that we silently carry sometimes, because we're not necessarily the stable one. We might be the more aware one.
Right. Right. Well
But
said.
we're probably more self-aware than we are stable. So we're really aware of how not stable we are. That's the difference.
Well said. Again. Yeah. That's exactly right. But yeah, even friends that we go out with or whatever will say, you know, like, are you psychoanalyzing me right now? Or
Yes.
what are you thinking if you're quieter than you've been in the past? And like, no, I'm not doing any of that. I'm just listening to what you're saying and I'm listening.
Yeah, I love my friends. I do, and they know I do. I had an experience recently in the last 6 months where a friend of mine was going through something really difficult and is also in our field. And when she was describing to me what was happening, I would give her my honest opinion about because she was asking me for my honest opinion. I would give her my honest opinion, and she would say, I don't want the therapist version of your opinion. I want yours. And I said, is there a difference at this point?
Exactly.
Is there?
Exactly.
But like, I'm curious, Julie, is there a difference? Because I feel like I'm this blunt regardless.
Agreed. Agreed. I don't know if all therapists are like that, but
I don't know if they're all like that either, but I find it very difficult to untether what a therapist version of me would be versus what I would actually say, because I feel like in the way that I conduct myself in my sessions, it's very similar.
right. Exactly. Or my mother will call me and say, honey, I need you to put your therapist hat on for this one. And
Like,
yeah.
sorry, Kay.
Nope.
I'm
Take
sorry.
care.
Bye.
Very funny. Very funny.
She's like, hello? Are you there?
Hello?
Oh, there's bad service. I should call her back.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. No, I hate that.
It's just,
I really
there's
hate
no
that.
different. I don't have a different answer as her therapist daughter or just her daughter.
I know. I hate
I
that.
am who I am. And
agreed. And I can't unlearn what I know. So it's,
well, that's not true.
No, like in some ways, as far as like the way I would approach a situation, if I want, because I'm a DBT therapist, right? So dialectic is my goal all the time.
Right.
I don't know if I could undo that type of thinking and be like, oh, let me hold up. Let me answer you without DBT in mind. And I just don't operate that way. You're just going to get what you get. And if you don't like it, don't call me.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I think the role of therapists end up having to transition outside of the office and learn how to navigate without having, I wouldn't say therapist cap, but I guess there is moments where we receive backlash from our loved ones and people that we want to be around on our off hours about the way that we are. You're quieter than usual, you said before. And what are you thinking? And I'm listening. That would deter me from hanging out. You know what I mean? I don't want to hang out if I'm going to be under scrutiny sometimes. And that's actually changed some of my friendship landscapes since being in this field.
Give me some examples.
I had a group of friends that I would hang out with regularly over here in New York, and that has shifted over the years because the more I get involved in my work and the more I do as far as business building, entrepreneurial things, the amount of hours that go into what I try to create makes it really hard for me to commit to going out on the weekends. And if I choose to, and I choose to go out with these individuals, it's because I enjoy their time and I enjoy being with them and it fills my cup. But then it started to transition in the last couple of years where it wasn't filling my cup anymore. I was under scrutiny because I wasn't showing up in the way that I used to in the past, in their opinion, right? So like I wasn't drinking anymore. I wasn't doing this anymore. I didn't want to go out for late hours. I didn't want to go gallivanting. And I'm like, I'm tired. I'm old. I don't want to do that anymore. Like I used to do that when I was in my 20s, but like I'm in my 40s now. I don't really want to do those same things. Why can't we just enjoy our time together like this without the scrutiny?
Exactly. And I think it comes from an insecure place that the other person is in, which you're receiving as scrutiny. You're acting differently. I'm alerted to that. That makes me uncomfortable. I have to give you a barrage of questions. Then you feel a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's anxiety provoking, anxiety relieving, etc. It's just an interesting dynamic.
It makes me think of something like a little bit unrelated, but sort of the same. When when you're out in public and you meet strangers and people ask you what you do you tell them the truth?
Yes.
I don't. I do not tell them I'm a therapist, especially if I'm on a plane.
Well, that, yes, we could have a whole session on that one. Yeah, I'm not. I mean, there's times I've said I'm a mortician, but that was in
that's
like
what I wanted you to share.
I'm talking like 20 years ago.
Yeah, I know, but
I would
so
just
funny.
make stuff up, and it was hilarious. Yes, absolutely.
Yes,
But
I make things up also because I don't want to get stuck in a back and forth in public about their whatever. People that have been in my life for eons can tell you that even before I was in this field, people would love to tell me things about their lives randomly in the aisle of King Cullen. They would just come and tell me something, and I don't know what it is about. Because I don't think I have that face. I don't think I have that come talk to me face at all.
But you have expressions that tell people I'm open. And I don't think that's something that
Dude,
you can change.
Point them out to me next time, because I don't think I have an expression that says, welcome, tell me your trauma, while I'm at Costco.
Okay. I will point it out. I'll say, this is one of those moments.
So yeah, that's part of why I don't tell people what I do, right? Once people know what you do, you become the regulated one in the group or in that moment. And I don't always want to hold that space when I'm off hours.
Yes, it's true.
And I'm sure, because you also said your mom calls you sometimes and asks you to be the therapist in that moment. So you're obviously the one that people vent to, that process with, expect perspective from, even when you're off the clock.
Yes. Yes.
And I think what's tricky about that is we do care, but we don't always have the capacity to care in that moment.
And to not take it personally.
Well, because capacity and caring aren't the same thing.
They're not. I think it's in the way it's described to that person or how it's defined as to why I can't talk to you right now.
Of course. So, I think
right?
The work that we do already requires constant presence and emotional availability. We don't always have that after hours because we have to find ways to fill it up. So your way of doing that is to be, peacefully quiet, detached from technology, which is something that a lot of people can't do, which I admire in a lot of ways that you're able to do. By the way, guys, she can do this in 3 minutes. I recorded it.
I am proud of this one. This has been a childhood. Oh my gosh, I'll never do it.
For people that aren't viewing and are just listening, that's the Rubik's Cube. Last time I visited with Julie, I asked her to start doing it under a timer, and she did it at 3. I have it screenshot. 3 minutes. I could not believe it. I was jumping up and down on the sofa.
That's why people tell you stuff. That's the reaction.
Oh, that's why? Because people like my reactions?
Yes. Jumping up and down on the sofa, like as enthusiastic as they are about something that is so mundane.
Oh my
God.
Feels
great.
I see the Rubik's Cube and my brain is nope, just it's like nope, not working.
Well, it was after my divorce that I threw myself into this. That's when this obsession started again, where I wanted to focus and I wanted to do something that felt accomplishing. I'm not really trying to solve it, but
so what do people think you do off hours?
I got to be honest, it's not a question I get asked.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
Why are my clients so different than yours?
I don't know.
So many clients that like really want to know what I'm doing with my life.
Maybe I'm more private. I don't know. That's not a question.
I agree. You are more private and you deserve to have that privacy. I think it's really interesting personality wise what we attract in our caseloads. It cracks me up. I really enjoy looking at the differences, but that's probably just a me thing.
No, it's very interesting. It's not something I've ever thought of before because I feel like I have great relationships with them.
I believe you do.
And I would say they feel like they know me to a degree, but not, hey, Julie, what'd you do this weekend? I'm not getting that kind of
I get that.
response.
I'm very animated in my sessions. And I would say if I had to guess, you're a lot more professional than I am.
I am so animated in sessions. I am
I
with
don't
the
believe you.
Italian hands.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, I am so enthusiastic, and I feed off of the energy. Yeah, I am
I'm going to have to
much
send out a
much.
survey to our clients to see who's more animated. I think people assume sometimes, but some people assume that we keep analyzing human behavior after hours. And the reality is, I couldn't get away from it fast enough off hours. I love nothing more than to come home and zone out for a couple of hours on end. I do my shower routine. I like to put on a show. It could be one that I already know all the episodes to, which sometimes brings comfort to just be playing. And the reality is my brain needs the opposite of what I've been doing all day, right? After holding intensity, I just want simplicity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But then I would ask, are you on your phone? Are you on the computer looking up stuff?
Not always. I would say on the computer sometimes, but doing something creative, which is a different part of my brain, making something on Canva, writing down things that I didn't get a chance to write down during the day that I really want to look up. Something the client said to me recently was a restaurant she went to that she really thinks would be great if I was ever in that area again. So I was looking that up. I was looking up a podcast that a client told me about that I never have time to see. And things like that. Like I'll just go through like what are things that piqued my interest for the last 7 days that I didn't get a chance to review, and I'll try to look for that stuff, or I'll put on a show that someone told me about because they thought I would like it. Sometimes it looks like the dumbest TV possible because my brain can't really process more than one emotion at that time.
That time of night, right?
Yeah, that time of night. Yeah, I do the least when I come visit you, and that's like a real reset for me. When I come over there is very little stimuli, which is very good for somebody like me who's thrives in chaos and really levels up in that type of energy.
Absolutely. I think it's one of the only ways to pull you in. But to one thing that you had said before, if I have 20 clients that I'm working with in a certain week, those 20 people know that I'm passionate about photography. So there are certain things that that I'm happy to share and get into. Maybe it's just the, what'd you do this weekend plans? That question doesn't happen for me.
Yeah, I don't
they
always
probably
get a
all
lot.
know that I'm a homebody.
I would say my clients are sometimes surprised that I really love shutting out, and my version of shutting out is very different than maybe someone else's. I'm not a party person or a concert I'm a concert person, but I wouldn't say that I chase concerts frequently. I have a couple clients that will go as often as they can throughout the month, and I really try to reserve that time for the concerts and musicians I really love. Things like that, I will consider that a special treat to do. But most times I really just want to get on top of things that I need to do at home that I couldn't do all week long, because by the time I get home at night, I'm so tired from everything that I was doing that day emotionally that I just want to shower and go to bed, or shower and relax and then go to bed, whatever it is.
Right.
But I usually get home so late that I cannot do a single thing the second Monday starts until Friday. So by the time I get back on Thursday night, I'm already thinking about all the laundry I want to do on Friday and all the vacuuming I want to do. So we have lives. It's not just this office that people see me in. I actually exist in a lot of other areas.
Yes, in a lot of other areas. Yeah.
So, all right, why did we start License to Spill? That is one question I have been getting recently, now that more and more of our clients are listening to this and sharing this with their friends and family. I don't know if you saw what I said to you last week that a client of mine said about our podcast.
Yes.
I think honestly, we started this podcast because therapy gets talked about in outcomes, not process.
Right.
And I think
yes,
people hear therapy helps, therapy changes you, therapy gives insight, but no one talks about what it's actually like inside this room for either of us, for either them or us.
I think you're right. I think that's very true. And that's why I like that we're having this kind of dialogue.
Mm-hmm. There's awkward pauses, there's misinterpretations, there's slow shifts, there's moments that we don't, I guess, that don't even look like breakthroughs, right? But they actually are.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
We wanted a space to humanize our work and not make therapy casual, but make it understandable.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, I agree.
For the record, this is not therapy for listeners. It's context. Just want to make sure everybody knows this is not to replace any therapy that's happening in your life.
Yes, agreed. This is hopefully a fun checkout for people to just, listen to our humor and
maybe it's an entry point.
We talk about, a lot of things.
We do. Once people understand the process, they stop measuring healing by dramatic moments, right? And they can start recognizing progress as it's happening. Maybe even hearing our podcast could be an entry point as to why they might want to start therapy, because they realize that it's not as scary as some people make it sound. And the way that movies and shows interpret it, they almost always get it wrong.
It's so dramatic. And there are more and more shows about people like us.
I haven't seen any since the last time I was recommended to watch a show, and within 10 minutes I was cringing and turned it off. If you've ever wondered what therapists are actually doing or thinking during the work, this is basically all the behind the scenes version. We can definitely have a follow-up episode, I'm sure.
There's much more.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not the polished version. This is just the real one.
This is the raw one. Yeah. Raw, real.
Exactly. Well, thank you guys for joining us today. Anything you want to add, Jules?
Get a Rubik's Cube, and I'm not being sponsored by Rubik's Cube to say anything like that, but this can help you work through a lot of shit.
Or get yourself a friend that'll jump up and down when you solve it.
Even better. Even better. Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming in.
Thank you.